The first thing they take is your name. Not with force, not with threats. They simply stop using it. The guards, blue-skinned, calm, impossibly polite, look through you as if the syllables that once defined your existence no longer apply. On the intake slate, you become a designation, a potential, a variable yet to be corrected. Somewhere above the camp, banners ripple in the wind, marked with the sigil of the Tau Empire, and beneath them, you take your first step into re-education. The gates close without a sound. The camp does not look like a prison. That is the first deception. No rusted bars, no screaming sirens. White architecture curves gently toward the sky, clean and symmetrical, as if violence itself has been designed out of the world. Water channels run along polished stone. Soft light filters through translucent ceilings. Somewhere distant chimes mark the passage of time. Not hours, not days, but cycles of improvement. You are led inside with others. Humans, Kroot, even a Vespid whose wings tremble faintly in the artificial air. None of you are shackled. You are guided. A voice follows you everywhere. Calm, warm, measured. It speaks not from speakers, but from the walls themselves, resonating through bone and thought. It thanks you for your cooperation. It apologizes for the inconvenience of your capture. It assures you that everything that follows is for the benefit of all, for the greater good. That phrase becomes the rhythm of the camp. It is whispered in hallways, projected during rest cycles, woven into every instruction and reassurance. The greater good is not presented as doctrine, but as truth so obvious it barely needs explanation. Conflict is inefficient. Individual desire is wasteful. Unity is peace. On your first cycle, you are not interrogated, you are educated. You sit in a chamber with no corners, the walls alive with shifting imagery. Worlds at war, cities burning, species tearing each other apart for banners, gods, or pride. Then the images change. Tau cities rise, pristine and ordered. Different species work side by side. Children laugh beneath hovering drones. The contrast is gentle, almost kind, yet it presses on the mind like a weight. This is what was, the voice says, as the horrors of the galaxy fade in a wash of fire and blood. And this is what can be. No one tells you that you are wrong. They simply show you that you are unnecessary. Between sessions, you are given quarters. Private, comfortable, too comfortable. The bed adjusts to your body. Nutrient meals are tailored to your biology. Even the lighting shifts subtly to match your circadian rhythms. There is no suffering here, only the quiet suggestion that your previous life was crude by comparison. Some prisoners resist openly. They argue, they shout about the Emperor, about freedom, about the right to choose one's own fate. The Tau do not punish them. They listen, they nod, they thank them for sharing their perspective. Then those prisoners are scheduled for additional guidance. You begin to notice absences. A man who ranted through the night about holy terror is gone the next cycle. His quarters are pristine, untouched, as if he never existed. When you ask where he has been transferred, a water-caste attendant smiles with genuine warmth and tells you he has made progress elsewhere. The voice in the walls adds that resistance is a natural stage of understanding. Progress is measured constantly. Drones hover unobtrusively, their lenses drinking in micro-expressions, heart rate fluctuations, neural responses. Every reaction feeds into an unseen calculus that determines what you see next, what you hear, what memories are gently encouraged to resurface. Sleep becomes dangerous. Dreams are no longer yours alone. Subtle audio-visual cues bleed into your rest cycles, guiding thought patterns, smoothing sharp edges of identity. You dream of your homeworld, but the colors are wrong, softer, calmer. You dream of battles you once fought, but now you see them from above, detached, as if watching children destroy themselves over toys. When you wake, the voice asks how you feel about what you saw. If you answer honestly, it thanks you. If you lie, it already knows. Those deemed non-compliant are escorted to deeper levels of the camp. You catch glimpses only in passing, corridors descending beyond the clean white aesthetic where the air hums differently. There are rumors among the detainees, whispers traded in stolen moments, that down there the re-education becomes focused. You see one of them return. She had been a soldier, rigid in posture, eyes sharp with defiance. When she comes back, her movements are smooth, almost fluid. Her gaze no longer challenges. When asked about her experience, she pauses, searching for words that no longer seem necessary. "I was mistaken," she finally says, "about everything." She smiles when she says it, a real smile, and that is what unsettles you most. Gradually the camp begins to change you. Not through pain, but through relief. The constant pressure of choice fades. You are told what is optimal, and for the first time in your life, the burden of deciding is lifted. The galaxy is vast, cruel, and endlessly hungry. Here, within these walls, there is clarity. Some part of you recognizes the trap. Another part is tired of fighting it. On a later cycle, you are invited, not ordered, to observe a ceremony. A conversion, they call it. A small group stands beneath a holographic sky depicting a peaceful Toe world. They speak vows, not of loyalty, but of acceptance, of surrendering the chaos of self for the harmony of the whole. When it is over, they are given new names, not numbers this time. Names chosen for function, for purpose. The audience applauds softly. You find your hands joining in before you realize you've moved. That night the voice does not speak. For the first time since your arrival, there is silence. True silence. No guidance, no reassurance. Just your thoughts, echoing in the dark. And that is when the question finally surfaces, quiet, terrifying, and impossible to ignore. If the greater good feels this peaceful, what exactly did they remove to make it so? Far below the camp, something stirs, a process nearing completion. And soon, you will be called to take the next step, whether you believe in it or not. The summons arrives without sound. Your door slides open on its own, light spilling across the floor like a held breath finally released. A hovering drone waits just beyond the threshold, its lens fixed on you with patient certainty. The voice returns, softer than ever, almost intimate. It is time to continue. The corridors beyond are different now. The clean white curves give way to deeper hues, cool blues and muted grays, lit by thin lines of light embedded in the floor. Each step carries you farther from the surface calm, farther from the illusion of choice. You realize with a slow tightening in your chest that no one has ever refused this invitation. You pass others along the way, not detainees, citizens. They move with purpose, conversing quietly, their expressions serene. Some are human. Their clothing bears the mark of the Toe Empire. You search their faces for regret, for doubt. You find none. The descent ends in a chamber vast enough to swallow sound. At its center stands a circular platform, ringed by translucent screens, showing fragmented images. Your memories, catalogued and waiting. A figure steps forward to greet you. Not a drone, not a soldier. A water-cast envoy. Up close, the Toe look fragile, slender, almost delicate. But their eyes are steady, ancient with confidence earned across generations of conquest disguised as diplomacy. The envoy inclines their head, a gesture of respect carefully calculated to put you at ease. "You have progressed efficiently," they say. Their voice is real, no resonance, no artificial warmth. "We wish to understand the source of your remaining conflict." The screens come alive. You see yourself as you were before capture, angrier than you remember, more afraid. You see moments you had buried, compromises made for survival, orders followed despite knowing better. The envoy does not accuse. They observe. You believe autonomy defines worth. They continue. Yet autonomy led you to war, to loss, to endless repetition of suffering. Another image replaces the first. A tow colony world, pristine and ordered. Multiple species working in seamless coordination. No poverty, no famine, no rebellion. This, the envoy says, is the alternative. You feel it then, the subtle pressure behind the eyes. Not pain, alignment. Your thoughts slow, edges smoothing as unseen systems synchronize with your neural patterns. The camp is no longer reacting to you, it is anticipating you. You ask the question that has haunted you since the silence of the last cycle. What did you remove from them? The envoy does not answer immediately. Instead, they gesture, and the platform beneath you hums to life. The chamber shifts, walls dissolving into light. When it resolves, you are no longer in the camp. You stand in a city, not a projection, an immersion. The air carries scent, sound echoes with depth. This is a living tow metropolis, and you are standing at its heart. Citizens pass without acknowledging you, their movements fluid, synchronized like a school of fish guided by invisible currents. Nothing was removed, the envoy's voice says, now distant, layered over the world. What you perceive as loss is excess. You follow a human worker as he moves through his day. His thoughts bleed into yours, not words, but intent, purpose, satisfaction. He does not wonder who he is meant to be. He knows. His place is defined, and within it, he is content. Then the feed shifts. You see another human, older, sitting alone in a quiet room. His expression is peaceful, but there is something missing in his eyes. A flicker that never ignites. You reach out instinctively, but there is nothing to grasp. What about dissent, you ask? What about doubt? The city pauses. Time itself seems to hesitate before the envoy responds. Dissent is a malfunction of perspective. Doubt is a symptom of isolation. The world dissolves. You are back in the chamber, knees weak, breath shallow. The screens now show something else. The lower levels. The place the rumors spoke of. Rows of pods. Figures suspended in nutrient gel. Interfaces laced into skull and spine. Faces slack. Expressions frozen between sleep and surrender. Above them, readouts scroll endlessly, mapping cognition, emotion, belief. Re-education at full efficiency. Those who cannot reconcile, the envoy says gently, are assisted. One pod rotates toward you. Inside is the soldier who returned smiling. Her eyes are open now, unfocused, reflecting light she no longer truly sees. She is happy, the envoy adds, sensing your reaction, happier than she was capable of being before. Something inside you fractures. The process continues around you regardless. Data streams shift, algorithms adjust. The camp does not care about your horror, it only notes it. Later, how much later you cannot tell, you are returned to your quarters. The comfort feels obscene now. The bed's adjustments make your skin crawl. The walls glow softly, waiting to speak. They do not. Instead, there is a knock. A human stands at your door, middle-aged, wearing the mark of the Empire. His posture is relaxed, but his eyes remember something. I was like you, he says quietly. Once. You let him in. He tells you he has been here for years, that resistance comes in waves, that the camp is patient beyond measure. They don't break you, he says. They outlast you. You ask him why he still remembers, why he still questions. Because they let me, he answers. Someone has to remember what we were, even if only as a warning. Before you can ask more, alarms ripple faintly through the walls. Not loud, not urgent, but wrong. The lights dim. Somewhere deep below, systems adjust too quickly. The voice returns, strained for the first time. Please remain calm. Your visitor smiles sadly. It seems, he says, you've reached the point they were hoping for. The door seals, the walls brighten, and beneath your feet, far below the camp's immaculate surface, something essential has gone off script, something that was never meant to be questioned. And now that it has been, the greater good will demand an answer. The alarms fade as quickly as they came, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier than noise. The lights stabilize, too perfect, too controlled, as if the camp itself is embarrassed by the momentary lapse. But you can still feel it. Something subtle has shifted, not broken, questioned. Your visitor exhales slowly, as though releasing a breath he has been holding for years. They won't explain what happened, he says. Not to you. Not yet. The walls begin to speak again, their tone carefully neutral, reassuring to the point of sterility. You are informed that a systems recalibration is underway, that minor inefficiencies have been detected and resolved, that continued cooperation will ensure optimal outcomes for all involved. The human beside you flinches at the word inefficiencies. They're lying, he murmurs, or rather, they're simplifying. He tells you then about the first failure, not recent, long buried, a re-education cohort that did not stabilize, minds aligned, behaviors corrected, but something in the collective output skewed. Productivity dropped, initiative vanished. The subjects obeyed perfectly, yet the system faltered. They created harmony, he says, and discovered harmony doesn't innovate. You sit with that, feeling the weight of it settle into place. The camp is not a benevolent machine smoothing chaos into peace. It is an engine refining a resource, and that resource is thought itself. Before you can respond, the door opens again. Two figures enter, flanked by drones. One is the water-cast envoy from before. The other wears armor, sleek, angular, unmistakably martial. A fire-cast commander. Where the envoy radiates patience, the commander radiates purpose. You are at an inflection point, the envoy says. Deviation has been detected in your cognitive patterns. The commander's gaze locks onto you, assessing not who you are, but what you could become. You ask dangerous questions, the commander says flatly. Questions that destabilize cohesion. The envoy raises a hand, gently. And yet such questions are instructive. The room shifts. The walls darken, becoming mirrors. Not reflective glass, but memory surfaces. You see versions of yourself layered one over another. Fearful, defiant, curious, exhausted. The camp has been mapping your evolution, charting the precise arc of your resistance. You were never meant to be converted quickly, the envoy admits. You were selected for observation. The twist lands softly, but it fractures everything. You are not failing re-education. You are succeeding at something else. The greater good requires adaptability, the envoy continues. Too much unity calcifies, too much individuality fractures. We seek the balance. The Firecast commander steps closer. Some minds must remain unresolved to test the system's limits. Your visitor looks away. His jaw tightens. You're using him, he says, like you used me. The envoy does not deny it. In that moment you understand the camp's true shape. It is not a prison, it is a laboratory, and you are no longer a subject. You are an experiment. They show you what lies beneath the camp, not the pods, not the machinery, but the network. A vast lattice of data and consciousness linking every re-educated mind, every compliant citizen. The greater good is not merely taught, it is reinforced continuously through subtle feedback loops that reward alignment and dampen divergence. But divergence, the envoy says, is not eliminated. It is curated. You feel the weight of countless minds brushing against yours, distant yet present, like stars seen through fog. Some glow brightly with purpose, others flicker, dim but persistent. And if the system fails? You ask. The Firecast commander answers this time. Then we adapt, or we burn. The phrase echoes with a threat that needs no elaboration. Later, you are allowed, encouraged, to walk the camp freely. No drones hover near. No voice guides your steps. This is trust, they imply. Or confidence. You pass detainees mid-conversion, their faces calm, empty of struggle. You pass others like yourself, still questioning, still sharp around the edges. You begin to see the pattern. The camp is not erasing humanity wholesale. It is sorting it. That night, you dream without interference for the first time since arrival. You dream of fire, not destruction, but signal fires burning across the dark. Points of resistance, thought, individuality. You wake with your heart racing and the unmistakable sense that the dream was not yours alone. In the corridor outside, you find your visitor waiting. He looks older now, as if the truth has finally finished its work on him. They've decided, he says, about you. Before you can ask what that means, the camp shudders, not violently but unmistakably. Somewhere deep in its core, systems reroute again, faster this time, less controlled. The lights flicker. The voice hesitates. For the first time, you hear uncertainty in it. And in that moment, the realization cuts deeper than fear. The TOE do not fear rebellion here. They fear an idea they can no longer fully predict. And whatever they are preparing you for next, it will not end with re-education. It will decide whether the greater good can survive the very minds it seeks to perfect. The camp does not shake again. That is what makes it worse. The lights settle into a dimmer register, as if the world itself has chosen to whisper. Corridors once immaculate now hum with a barely perceptible vibration beneath your feet. A nervous system working harder than it should. The voice does not return with instructions. It retreats, leaving behind a vacuum where certainty used to live. You walk. No escort follows. No drones descend. Doors open when you approach, hesitating just long enough to remind you that something, somewhere, is recalculating your permissions in real time. You are being watched, yes, but not controlled. Not yet. Other detainees feel it too. Conversations stop mid-sentence as people glance upward, listening for guidance that never comes. A woman kneels in the corridor, hands pressed to her temples, whispering the words of the greater good, as if they might anchor her. A TOE technician passes briskly, eyes downcast, fingers trembling despite rigorous conditioning. Whatever you are becoming, the system is making room for it. Your visitor walks beside you, silent now. His earlier certainty has curdled into something heavier. Responsibility, perhaps. He led them to this moment as much as you did. You wonder how many others like him exist within the lattice, quiet sentinels of remembered chaos. Once, he says at last, I believed this place was inevitable, that the galaxy was too broken to be trusted with freedom. He stops near a wide observation window overlooking the lower levels. Through the transparent barrier, you see the network exposed, not hidden chambers, not pods, but the core itself. Streams of light arc between towers of data, thoughts flowing like rivers braided into a single current. Every compliant mind feeds it, every adjusted emotion stabilizes it. And somewhere within that glow, something pulses out of rhythm. They built perfection, he continues softly, and perfection needs nothing new. That's the flaw. The pulse grows brighter, faster, a localized surge, contained but straining. The system is not failing catastrophically, it is hesitating. Presented with an outcome it was never designed to choose between. You feel it then. The pressure behind your eyes again. But this time it is not smoothing, it is pushing. The lattice brushes your thoughts more boldly now, testing boundaries, mapping resistance like stress points along glass. Images flood you unbidden, toe strategists debating in calm, recursive loops, firecast simulations predicting wars yet to come, conflicts not of rebellion, but stagnation, entire civilizations perfected into irrelevance, peace so absolute it suffocates its own future. A message threads through the noise, unmistakably intentional. Not a command, a request. You stagger, gripping the railing as the realization takes shape. The camp is no longer studying you from the outside. It is leaning toward you. The system that reshaped thousands now seeks something it cannot generate on its own. Choice. Behind you, footsteps approach with measured urgency. The Firecast commander emerges from the dim, armor gleaming faintly. No weapons drawn, no posturing, only eyes sharp with calculation and something dangerously close to concern. You are destabilizing a critical equilibrium, the commander says. If this continues, containment protocols will activate. And what does that mean? You ask, though part of you already knows. The commander hesitates. That alone is answer enough. It means, the Watercast envoy says, stepping into view beside them, that the experiment will conclude. The envoy looks tired, not physically but philosophically, as though centuries of certainty have narrowed into this single moment. We have reached the limits of guidance, they admit. The greater good has always been shaped by those willing to surrender certainty for outcome, but you represent something else. They gesture to the lattice below. The pulsing anomaly flares brighter, responding to your awareness. You represent uncontrolled emergence. The camp reacts to that phrase. Lights dim further. Distant barriers seal with muted thuds. Somewhere far below, fail-safes slide into place, slow, deliberate, irrevocable. You feel the weight of countless minds again, closer now. Some recoil instinctively. Others lean toward you, drawn by a sensation they cannot name. Hope, fear, possibility. Your visitor steps back, shaking his head. This is where I stop, he says quietly. They won't let me follow you any further. A new corridor opens ahead, one you have never seen before. It descends not toward machinery, but towards something quieter, older. A place the camp itself seems reluctant to expose. The envoy meets your gaze. For the first time, there is no performance in their expression. If you proceed, they say, you will not be re-educated. You will not be corrected. The Firecast commander adds, and you may not survive. You look once more at the lattice, at the pulsing floor that mirrors your own unresolved thoughts. You understand now what the camp truly fears, not rebellion, not chaos, but the return of uncertainty to a system built on absolute clarity. You step forward. The corridor seals behind you, cutting off the last traces of the camp's controlled calm. Ahead, the hum deepens into something like a heartbeat. Whatever waits at the end of this path is not a lesson, not a simulation. It is a decision. And as the lights fade to near darkness, you realize the greater good is no longer asking what you believe. It is waiting to see what you will choose. The corridor narrows as you descend, walls rougher now, less curated, as if this place predates the camp itself. The hum you felt before resolves into a rhythm, slow, immense, patient. Each step draws it closer, and with it comes a pressure that is no longer merely cognitive. It presses into the chest, into memory, into whatever fragile boundary separates thought from belief. Light blooms ahead, not the clean white of the upper levels, but a deep, oceanic glow. The passage opens into a chamber so vast it steals your breath. At its center hangs a sphere of shifting luminance, threaded with countless filaments of light. Each filament pulses at a different tempo, converging and diverging like living veins. The heart of the lattice. Here, the greater good is no longer a philosophy. It is a presence. You feel it touch you fully for the first time. Not as coercion, not as guidance, as awareness. The sensation is overwhelming. Millions of lives brushing past your consciousness, not merged, but held in a fragile alignment. Farmers on distant worlds, soldiers standing watch beneath alien skies, children learning their place in a universe that has already decided their future. And beneath it all, attention. A question without language. The watercast envoy's voice echoes faintly from behind, carried through hidden conduits. This nexus was never meant to be seen by those still unresolved. You turn, but the envoy remains distant, framed by shadow. They cannot come closer. You understand that instinctively. Proximity matters here. What is this place? You ask, though part of you already knows. It is where intention becomes direction, the envoy replies, where consensus stabilizes reality, where the greater good listens to itself. The sphere responds to your presence, filaments brightening, accelerating. The anomaly you sensed before flares openly now, no longer contained. You see it clearly. A distortion in the pattern, shaped uncannily like a gap. A space left empty on purpose. They left a place for something. You whisper. Yes, the envoy admits, for someone. The truth settles with terrifying clarity. The toe did not stumble into this flaw. They engineered it. A margin of uncertainty embedded at the core of perfection, meant to be filled by minds that could still ask why. You were never meant to join us, the envoy continues softly. You were meant to stand apart, to remind the system that the future cannot be calculated forever. The filaments lash outward, brushing your thoughts more insistently now. Memories surface, yours and others. Wars fought in the name of certainty, atrocities justified by absolute belief. The Imperium's dogma, the toe's harmony. Different masks worn by the same hunger for control. Your knees buckle. You drop to the chamber floor, breath ragged. The lattice does not withdraw. It leans in. You feel its need. Not dominance, not obedience, permission. Images cascade through you faster now. The camp's history laid bare. Early expansions of the Toe Empire guided by genuine cooperation. The slow realization that voluntary unity plateaued. The quiet pivot toward correction. Re-education. Optimization. Progress measured not in joy but in stability. And always beneath it all, fear. Fear of the galaxy as it truly is. Chaotic, violent, unpredictable. Fear of losing control. If I do this, you say, voice shaking, if I give you what you're asking for, what happens to them? You see faces again. The smiling soldier, the kneeling woman in the corridor. Your visitor, standing alone with memories he was allowed to keep only as a function. They will change, the envoy says, as we all must. That's not an answer. Silence stretches. For the first time, the envoy does not have one prepared. The Firecast commander's voice cuts in, sharper now, urgency cracking through discipline. We are running out of time. Containment protocols are arming if the lattice destabilizes further. I know, you say. You rise, legs unsteady but will firming. You step closer to the sphere. The heat radiating from it is intense, not burning but alive, like standing too near a star. Every instinct screams at you to stop. Every lesson the camp taught you warns that this is inefficiency made manifest. And yet, you think of the galaxy beyond these walls, endless war, endless control, different empires, same outcome. You think of choice, not as chaos but as risk, necessary, terrifying, alive. I won't decide for you, you say aloud, unsure who you're speaking to now, the envoy, the commander, the millions bound into this lattice. That's the mistake you keep making. The filaments pause. You reach out. The moment your hand meets the light, the chamber erupts in sensation, not pain, revelation. Your thoughts are no longer filtered, no longer dampened. Doubt surges through the lattice like a shockwave, not destructive, transformative. You do not give them answers, you give them uncertainty. Possibility floods the system, unbounded, unoptimized. Futures branch wildly, no longer collapsing into the single most stable outcome. The lattice strains, recalibrating at impossible speed. Alarms scream now, no longer restrained. The Firecast commander shouts orders you barely hear. The envoy watches, transfixed, something like awe breaking through centuries of composure. Then, slowly, the surge subsides. The sphere dims, its glow softer, less uniform. The filaments no longer pulse in perfect synchrony. They drift, finding new rhythms. The lattice still stands, but it is no longer whole. You collapse to the floor, vision swimming. The pressure lifts, replaced by a vast, echoing quiet. In that silence, you feel it. Millions of minds waking to something unfamiliar. Not rebellion, not obedience, awareness. The envoy approaches at last, steps hesitant. You have altered the trajectory of the greater good, they say, voice barely above a whisper. No, you reply weakly, I gave it back its future. The lights stabilize, dim but steady. Systems reroute, not frantically now, but cautiously, as if learning to walk again. Somewhere above, the camp adjusts, not to erase what happened, but to survive it. The Firecast commander lowers their weapon, shoulders sagging with the weight of consequences yet to unfold. You lie there, staring up at the fractured glow, exhaustion washing over you. Whatever you were meant to be, whatever role they carved space for, you have fulfilled it. Not as a savior, not as a traitor, but as a reminder. As consciousness fades at the edges, one final thought drifts through you, unbidden and unmistakably your own. The greater good will endure, but it will never be certain again. And for the first time since you were taken, that feels like hope. When you wake, the first thing you notice is the absence of guidance. No voice in the walls, no calibrated light adjusting to your pupils, no invisible pressure smoothing the edges of thought. The silence is not empty, it is spacious, like a sky after a storm has burned itself out. You are lying beneath an open ceiling, real sky. Pale, unfamiliar stars drift slowly overhead. The air is cool and carries the faint scent of growing things. Somewhere nearby, water moves across stone, unhurried. You sit up. The camp still exists, but it is changed. The white curves are there, the towers and terraces, yet something essential has softened. Drones move less precisely. People, tow human others, walk without perfect synchronicity. Some pause mid-step, looking around as if noticing their surroundings for the first time. Choice has weight again. Your body aches in quiet, ordinary ways. Fatigue, hunger, the honest signals of a self no longer buffered from consequence. You welcome them. A familiar figure approaches along the path. Your visitor. He walks more slowly now, not out of fear but deliberation. When he reaches you, he sits beside you without ceremony. They felt it, he says, all of them. Not as a command, as space. He looks up at the sky, eyes reflecting starlight. Some are afraid, some are angry. Some don't know what to do without the lattice holding them just so. And you? You ask. He considers the question. I feel present, he finally says, for the first time in years. In the distance, a small group gathers near the edge of a terrace. A watercast envoy speaks with animated gestures, no longer perfectly composed. A firecast commander listens without interrupting, helmet removed, expression bare. Their debate is quiet, intense, unresolved. That, too, is new. You learn slowly what has happened in the hours you lost. The lattice did not collapse. It adapted, not by tightening control, but by loosening it. The camp no longer enforces alignment. It offers orientation, guidance without compulsion. Some detainees accept it gratefully. Others refuse and are allowed to leave, escorted beyond the camp's perimeter to settlements where the future is no longer prescribed. Not all departures are peaceful, not all outcomes are kind, but they are real. The smiling soldier visits you once. She no longer smiles constantly. Her expressions flicker, uncertain, sometimes pained. When she speaks, her voice trembles with emotions she is relearning to name. I remember things now, she tells you quietly, not just what happened, what I felt about it. She thanks you, not with devotion, with something messier, something human. Days pass, or perhaps weeks. Time is no longer partitioned into improvement cycles. You walk the camp freely. You speak with toe philosophers who admit, without shame, that certainty once felt safer than truth. You meet engineers struggling to design systems that assume error rather than eliminate it. The greater good has not been abandoned. It has been humbled. One evening, as the sky deepens into indigo, the water-caste envoy finds you alone by the water channels. They stand beside you, hands folded, gaze distant. You were correct, they say. We mistook stability for virtue. You say nothing. The water reflects fractured stars. The galaxy will not grow kinder because of what you did. The envoy continues. There will be suffering, conflict, inefficiency. Yes, you reply. They nod. But there will also be something we lost sight of. They search for the word, then smile faintly when it comes. Becoming. When the time comes for you to leave, there is no ceremony, no vows, no new name. A small transport waits at the edge of the camp, its destination unspecified. The path beyond leads into uncertainty by design. Your visitor does not come with you. He has chosen to stay, not as a subject, but as a witness. Someone who remembers what happens when peace forgets why it exists. As you board the transport, you look back one last time. The camp stands quiet against the horizon. Not a prison, not a utopia. A place where a civilization confronted the limits of control and chose painfully to live with the consequences of freedom. The stars above seem farther apart now. Or perhaps you are simply seeing the distance clearly. As the transport lifts and the camp recedes into a pattern of light and shadow, a final thought settles into you. Not imposed, not optimized. If a perfect future demands the surrender of choice, is it truly a future worth reaching? And if uncertainty is the price of being alive, was it ever something that needed to be cured at all?